You ever have somebody break up with you right in the middle of like a very important day? I mean, of course you have. Happened to me, happens to everybody. And I know that you in that situation were just like me in that situation, and you said to yourself, how could this get worse? Well, at least whatever that important day wasn't the day that you thought that you were wrapped up in a murder investigation, along with the person who broke up with you, who you're now on the run with. That is the premise of this week's movie, The Lovebirds, on the Everyman Movie Review. As I've been doing at the top of every episode, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has been staying inside, staying healthy, and staying safe. We are almost through this thing. Working together, we have flattened the curve, and with a little patience, we can get back to some sense of normalcy. I know a lot of states are loosening their regulations, so if you do go out and get back into public, please follow the guidelines that they gave out. That means masks, gloves where appropriate, and keeping social distancing. And a big special thank you to all of the frontline workers, the nurses and doctors who are going into the hospitals to treat patients, the retail workers who keep our shelves stocked, the truck drivers who are bringing it to the stores, and our restaurateurs who are making sure that we don't have to eat our own terrible cooking day after day. Please support your local restaurants. We want to make sure there are some great places to go after all of this gets lifted. And we're only going to do that if we support restaurants right now. So this week's movie is actually something new. The Lovebirds, a Netflix movie that debuted just this month. And I gotta say, everything I saw about this movie said it was gonna be hilarious. And I didn't necessarily see that much marketing material on it because, quarantine. But if you have Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae, I am in. I don't care what the premise is. You could give those two like an Adam Sandler kind of deal with Netflix and just let them make whatever they want. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna watch it. Especially if it's on Netflix and it's coming directly to me in my living room. But before we get too far ahead, let's get through the pleasantry, shall we? The Lovebirds was written by Brendan Gall and Aaron Abrams. Both Brendan and Aaron get a story by credit along with Martin Giro. It was of course directed by the hilarious Michael Showalter. It is starring Issa Rae as Leilani, Kumail Nanjiani as Gibran, Paul Sparks as Mustache, Anna Camp as Edie, Nicholas Parsons as Bicycle, Kyle Bornheimer as Brett, and a super talented, super funny cast. So The Lovebirds is a story of Leilani and Gibran and their relationship. And the first act is basically we see them meet and how they kind of fell in love, and we skip forward to much later. And for those of you who have been in a long-term relationship, you know that the cutesy nonsense that you get into at the beginning, it doesn't last. Eventually you get down to the day-to-day where you're living with someone and you know everything about them, and there are things that drive you crazy and there are things that you love, and you do that math about, is it worth staying? Not that you do it every day, but you do it some days, especially on the bad days. And they are heading out to a party, and they're having a fight that's not really a fight, just kind of like the nipping back and forth that couples do, and we all do it. But it gets a little out of control and gets a little personal, the way that can. And on the ride to the party, they decide to break up. And it's one of those things that they both come to the realization that maybe this isn't right for either of them, and that they should move on. And it's a bad time for that realization because with their attention taken away from the road, they then run into a bicycle driven by Bicycle. It's the only name we know of him of through the entire movie. They get out, they try to comfort him, and he gets up and starts moving immediately. And they're stunned, but they go about their day. Until Mustache, that's the only name we know him by, bangs on the window and says, "Hey, I'm a cop. I need your car. That's a suspect." And off they go to the races. Eventually, they corner him in a dead end. Well, certainly the cop is going to apprehend the suspect, right? Nope. Bam! Runs him down. And when he sees he's still moving, he backs over him, just to be sure. So now, of course, Leilani and Gibran have some questions. But Mustache jumps out and he goes searching on Bicycle for something. When he realizes he doesn't have it, he looks back in the car and starts making his way over when sirens go flashing. And he runs off, leaving those two in the car with a broken windshield and a dead body on the ground. They might be all right. They might be able to think their way out of it until two hysterical hipsters make their way into the alleyway and find the scene as it is and decide to call the cops. Leilani and Gibran now assume that they are suspects in this murder, and Gibran runs and then Leilani follows, and now they have to figure out what to do. Well, the only answer, of course, is that they have to solve this murder that they're suspects in, or that they think they're suspects in, because if they solve it, well, then they can't be suspects because they'll know who the real killer is, Mustache. And all the while, they have to avoid apprehension by the police. So since this is a new movie, I will do a spoiler section for it for those of you who may want to check it out without knowing all the details about what happens. So if you want to skip that, go down to the time down below because the spoilers are about to start right now. So clearly this is not a unique concept. In fact, I think that this is a take on Date Night, which was a movie with Steve Carell and Tina Fey from a few years ago, where they were also thought they were suspects, but maybe they were really suspects. The details escape me. But essentially, this is something that's been done before. It's all about how you do it. And I do think that this is an interesting and different take on something that has been kind of well-trodden ground. When you are stepping into the footsteps of Steve Carell and Tina Fey, two very funny people who are taking a humorous look at this kind of concept, you got to be careful and you got to make sure that you are setting yourself up for the best situation possible. And I think that they absolutely did. I think the important thing is that they didn't try to do what some other people may have done. These are two comedians who have a unique style that is their own. It's not their own as in they share it. They each have their own individual style. And it blended so well as these two characters who were in a relationship, but there's obviously some problems there. And the question is always, in every relationship, is should we stay together or should we break up? And their dynamic together seemed so natural. The only thing that was more exciting than their dynamic and how funny they were together was the anxiousness with which I waited for Kumail Nanjiani to take his shirt off. Now, I know that that sounds weird to you guys at home, but I've seen pictures of him from like Men's Health where he's like flexing and stuff. He's in ridiculously good shape, and I was really hoping we were gonna get like a flex superhero shot. And that is one spoiler that I'll leave for you. I don't want to ruin it for you. Check it out and see whether you get to see super cut up Kumail Nanjiani. But like most situations, it goes through like a comedy of errors. They have a clue, which leads them to a place where they get another clue and it leads them to a different place. And all along the way, it seems like everything that can go wrong does go wrong, but somehow they work their way through it. They overcome the things that seem like they were roadblocks at the beginning, the reasons that they broke up, if you will. And I thought that this was a really interesting and funny part that if you've been in a long-term relationship, you will find that sometimes you have fights about the most ridiculous things. Like, hey, sweetie, if I had no arms and no legs, would you still love me? Like, how are you gonna answer that question? I mean, is there a good answer for that? But they have something similar to that, which is a disagreement on whether or not they would do well on The Amazing Race. And that keeps coming up all throughout. And I just think it's a kind of callback that it keeps you in the mindset of no matter how well they're clicking, this is a couple that has decided we're gonna go our separate ways. You see little hints that they're being drawn back together, but then bad things happen and it pushes them apart. So by the end, they find out they're not even suspects in the murder at all. It's 2020 after all. It's not 1990, it's not 2005. There are traffic cams. They saw them being driven by someone. The police have put the whole thing together, except for who the suspect is. They just wanted to protect them from whoever this was who might try to hurt them as well. And it's one of those little winks and nods to the fact that the movie world that we're watching exists in a place where there are those movies, and maybe our characters got too involved in that thought process. Like, life is a movie and these crazy things can happen, when in reality, they don't really happen. But it turns out Mustache is a police officer. And it takes the two of them coming together to save themselves from him at the end, and they decide to stay together after all. And there's a super funny scene kind of after it breaks to the end of the movie. Stick around, don't hit stop. I don't think that it offers you to skip to the next thing the way that Netflix often does. Just stick around for the, not the post-credit scene, but like the post-break scene. I found it to be interesting, even though kind of predictable based on the other points that went through the movie. That's enough for spoilers. Let's bring everybody back in and we'll wrap up this review right now. I also think that the choice of location couldn't have been better. This is set in New Orleans, and there is already kind of a lot of weird things that happen in New Orleans, and having them be able to go through this adventure and meet some characters that are just natural to New Orleans in kind of their natural habitat, and how these two who are already in their own little world have to interact in that world that's already different than the world we already know. I just think the whole thing played to all of their strengths. As I said in the intro, it was directed by Michael Showalter. It's a name that I'm sure that you know even if you don't know him. For most people who aren't familiar with his comedy, especially through Stella, he's gonna be like, oh, that guy. But if you watched VH1 anytime between, I don't know, 2003 and 2011, you know who Michael Showalter is. He was a star on a lot of those I love the 80s, I love the 90s, kind of shows. But he's also just a really funny guy who has a really great sense of timing and has honed that skill over a long career. And you could see his little touches on the movie in very interesting places. I don't think it would have been as good as it was without Showalter directing it, also without having the very unique comedy of Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani playing off each other. This is a perfect storm of a movie. It doesn't happen all the time. All the pieces don't fall into place like this, but it seemed like everything was clicking. All of the supporting cast was fantastic in their roles. Both of the stars seemed to be just on it with each other, and the directing, the location, everything couldn't be better. So the best thing about the movie isn't the actors, it's not the setting, it's not the directing. It's a movie almost everyone can agree on. And that happens so rarely in my life. We have a group of friends, 5, 6, 7 people deep. It is really hard to pick a single movie that everyone's looking forward to and wants to see. Sometimes we will argue for longer than it would take to watch an episode of a show, or longer than it would take to eat the dinner we're trying to find accompaniment with. But when we first ran into everybody, we came in, we said, hey, what are we doing tonight? Let's watch Lovebirds. Yeah, everybody agrees. So no matter what kind of movie watcher you're with, if it's somebody who just likes romantic comedies, if it's somebody who just likes comedy, even if you're just a Kumail Nanjiani fan, if you've seen him in Silicon Valley, if you're an Issa Rae fan and you like her from Insecure, if you're a Michael Showalter fan and you just like the fact that he would be directing this movie, there is something for everyone, and it's a movie I think everyone will agree on. So it's available on Netflix. It's brand new. You've probably been suggested it. It's probably right there in the top row when you log in. And I can say 2 enthusiastic thumbs up, 100% worth the time. Even if it's just to keep the peace, one evening in your house while we're all still trapped in here together, it's absolutely worth the watch. So go on and check it out today. I am hoping that this is the last closing I'm gonna have to do wearing a baseball cap because, oh, please let the barbershops and salons reopen. I really need a haircut, and I promise you everything will be back to fully normal once I can get my haircut. But I have been keeping the beard straight. I've been trying to keep my mind straight. I've been trying to keep life together. I hope you are too. I know this can be super difficult, but I hope you're finding a little bit of diversion in these reviews. I'm trying to keep up 2 per week just for you to keep something new coming at you. Life in quarantine is not going to be easy, but let's take safe precautions so we can move out and defeat this thing for good. Please take care of yourselves and each other in these times. On a personal level, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all my supporters on Patreon. You guys are the motivation to keep me moving forward. It is so fantastic to see messages about the stuff that I post, when I give you early episodes, when I give you broken episodes. I did an episode about bad education and the audio was basically ruined, but I was able to put together a kind of an episode and I sent it out just to my patrons, so only they know my thoughts about bad education. If you want to be one of the chosen few, it is super easy. Head on over to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek, and for as little as $1 a month, you can join the crew. It'll get you early access to things. It'll get you notes in my books in the future. Basically, the inside line on all the stuff that I'm working on right there at your fingertip. But times are tough. Maybe even $1 a month is too much. Well, that's fine. Make sure you're following me on all social media at Robert N. Cheek. It's totally for free, and the jokes are basically the same. So you're going to get an insight to my life, my day-to-day. It's not going to be at the level of the patrons, but you'll definitely see a lot of interesting stuff and see kind of behind the scenes of the things that I'm working on. So you're not going to want to miss that. All over the internet, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, TikTok, everywhere at Robert N. Cheek. And of course, if you're looking for even more, you can find it at robertncheek.com. It's under construction, but it is slowly but surely getting there. You can find links to all of the YouTube videos, or just check out youtube.com/RobCheek. You can find links to all the books, or just search for me on Amazon. All of that is available at robertandcheek.com. And if you can't get enough of me, why would you? Make sure you are checking out the Oh the Anthem podcast. New episodes every Tuesday. You're going to find that at ohtheanthem.com, youtube.com/Oh the Anthem, and at Oh the Anthem on all your social networks. And of course, Everyman Movie Review is also on social media. You're going to find us at Everyman Movie on Instagram and Facebook, and Everyman Movie Review on Twitter. So that's it for this week. Thank you guys for joining me once again. Look for a new episode. They come out every single Thursday and one in between. I'm going through kind of the back catalog of streaming movies right now. It's a lot of older stuff, but I think it's stuff that's going to get you really excited. I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to it. So until next time, again, take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.